Welcome to another episode of the Pennsylvania Historical Markers series. So we are here in Lititz, Pennsylvania today. This was founded by Count Zinzendorf. Beautiful historic town. You got the bank. This is just the main square up here. I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of this as we come through. And you got the historic Wilbur Chocolate Company. You got their building here, and then there's one over there as well. It almost looks like some of it's used as apartments, but this is the historic marker. It's been a while since we've done one of these, so why not? And as Regent Philbin says, Lititz. So Lititz, settled during the 1740s, Moravians established here land, jameen, or country congregation in 1756. It was named by Count Zinzendorf after a Bohemian town which sheltered persecuted Moravians in 1456. And we will talk further about the history of Lititz and just the cool town that it is. So today for the Pennsylvania Historical Marker series, we're going to be talking about Lititz, Pennsylvania. This area was traversed and inhabited many centuries ago by the indigenous peoples, namely the Nanticokes. Relics have been unearthed near the headwaters of the Lititz Springs, thus substantiating the conclusion that this area of pristine wilderness had a cultural development and social organization long before the arrival of European settlers. It was not until 1722 that Christian Bamberger became the first known European settler in this area. The Moravians are the oldest Protestant denomination in the world. In the 18th century, Moravians left Saxony, Germany, in great numbers to serve as missionaries throughout the world, including right here in central Pennsylvania. Count Nicholas Ludwig von Zinzendorf was a nobleman born in 1700 in Dresden. He studied law, but his dream was to establish a model Christian community based on Moravian ideology. He left Germany to come to the New World where religious freedom was allowed. He first visited Pennsylvania in 1741 and met with leaders at the time such as Benjamin Franklin. Another one that would have come to mind as well was Conrad Weiser, who he traveled north to the Sunbury region to do missionary work, and that's also on the way up on the Topahawken Path, where he named that spring Pilgrim's Rest that we've dealt with several times. He reached an agreement for the establishment of a free Moravian movement. And this was the beginning of Lititz, which was named after a Bohemian castle near the village of Kunwald. Some of the interesting moments that happened in Lititz history. In 1777, during the American Revolution, General Washington ordered 250 wounded and sick soldiers to be quartered in Lititz. The Moravians' Brothers' house, built in 1759, was approved to serve as a hospital. They also are known for Linden Hall, which is the oldest girls' school. It's an all-girl boarding school. Was founded in 1746. They originally had a boys' school there as well, but that was separated shortly thereafter. The Moravian community of Lititz encouraged people to drink more beer. They encouraged the malting of grain for a time in hopes that increased production of beer would discourage the growing consumption of distilled liquor. Also, one of the things that we'll be doing a video on is the Julius Sturgis Pretzel Bakery, which is the oldest commercial pretzel bakery in America and remains active today, but it was founded in 1861. That building still exists. We will be filming there at some point.
Wilbur Chocolate Company's famous Wilbur Buds were first introduced in 1894. In 1978, Muhammad Ali interrupted his training for his rematch with Leanne Spinks to hold a press conference in Lititz, announcing his Muhammad Ali Crisp Crunch candy bar made by Wilbur Chocolate. The earliest tavern in Lititz was Zum Anker, built in 1764, rebuilt, added onto in 1804, in 1848, and in 1930. The four-story hotel is now known as Lititz Springs Inn and Spa. So an interesting bit about the start of Lititz as well is this is where Count Zinzendorf came there. He had preached. There was a man named John George Klein, and his neighbor had gone to see him, and he had sort of certain prejudices against Zinzendorf and the Moravians, and he basically had no interest in going. But overnight, he sort of couldn't sleep, and he felt sort of bad about how he had acted. So he went and saw Zinzendorf in Lancaster, where he was preaching the next day, and it so happened he was very, very moved by Count Zinzendorf. Now, he had already acquired quite a bit of acres. It was like almost 300 acres, and he eventually acquired another 200 some for a total of 510 acres. And because he was so moved by Zinzendorf, he basically decided he went to Zinzendorf and then to the bishop, I think it was Spandenberg, who came back from Germany from a trip that he had made, and offered them a deal to give them, it was 491 acres, I believe, and he basically, the only thing that he asked for is in return was 70 pounds annuity type thing, and they approved it, and then they created this village, this town, this community, and it ran that way where everything was controlled by the Moravians. Only Moravians were allowed into the community until I think about 1855, and then people started talking about, hey, we'd really like to bring in outside influences and stuff like that just for the benefit of all, and they agreed to it, and that's where things changed, and outside influences then started to come into the Lititz region. But it ran well for almost 100 years, a little more than 100 years, roughly that time period. But they had come down from Bethlehem, was at that time in Pennsylvania, was the big Moravian community, and they worked well with it. The first church was actually a Union church, I think in 1744, which was, the Moravians, the Lutherans, and the Mennonites. So, I mean, they were all German origins, so it made sense. But, yeah, it was, Lititz is a really cool community. You look at it today, it's one of those towns very much like, say, a New Hope, Jim Thorpe, those types of towns where it's a great place to go for a day trip or for a couple days, because there's just so much in that area to do. It's really so much history. I definitely encourage you, if you do go to Lititz, go to the train station there at Lititz Springs Park, because it's a welcome center. You can get all kinds of information and the different stuff that is in the area, because there's a ton to do. Really, really is neat. I'll be returning there soon again to get more things filmed. I want to go back to the Julius Sturgis Pretzel Bakery. You can't film, unfortunately, inside, but you can take photos, so I may do something like that with maybe Clef or something along those lines, do a trip to Lititz and just do an overall adventure, whatnot adventures type thing for me. And he does his thing as well, like, a day out with the hometown historian. But I think it'd be cool to experience that and take you guys along as best as I can. But that's a cool thing. You can go in, make pretzels, see how they're done, the old style type stuff, and it's a neat place. There's a lot of, like I said, like the architecture. One of the things that makes this town unique is so many of the buildings from, say, the 1700s. Excuse me, sorry about the coughing. I apparently got bronchitis, which is fun. But we're on the road to recovery. But I have a much deeper, bassy voice because of that. But anyways, really, really neat place just to walk through. You got Wilbur Chocolate there as well. Just so much to see and do and enjoy. A lot of cool covered bridges right around that area. I think there's a wolf sanctuary conservatory that's right near there, which is pretty neat. A lot of stuff, a lot of history. So as always, I want to say thank you for coming along, and we will see you all about town.